Genuine with the ANC because all the demands were requested from the ANC, even when they could not meet those demands at that time. Subsequent to that, all of those demands have been met and we have been championing them. So we're not bluffing. We didn't just do it for the sake of the engagement. We said Zuma must go. Later they agreed Zuma must go. We said free education. Later they agreed that free education. We said no nuclear deal. Later they agreed no nuclear deal. So many demands were made. And the ANC said no at the time. But later on they did the same thing. But at the center of our differences with the ANC today is corruption. They don't act on corruption. And even Cyril is prepared to accommodate the most corrupt in defense of the so-called ANC unity. And while they are obsessed with the ANC unity, corruption is eating away South Africa.
And it's critical. You know, with politicians, people always say, hey, I need to take with a pinch of salt, because these guys were ANC Youth League. Some of these terrible things did not happen under Ramaphosa, not even under Zuma, happened under your watch. What can you tell people of what has happened in 5 years that they should turn and believe you better when you say that you're going to fight corruption?
Well, we have exposed corruption everywhere. Where corruption raised its ugly head, we were the first ones to arrive and dealt with it decisively. Everybody till to date who's got an issue on corruption knows that the best corruption busters in South Africa is the EFF. And we've been in the forefront. Remember what we said about the Guptas and how we've exposed them consistently. Even when other leaders were calling them investors, we refused to succumb. We consistently said, these are not the investors, these are the looters of South Africa's resources. And we're proven wrong, right, at the end of everything else. So it cannot be that we, at some point, covered corruption. We have exposed corruption.
Obviously, they appreciate the newfound energy now, but they are skeptical, and that it comes back to my question of last week.
Yes.
Why didn't your central command team say, let's take whatever municipality, right? Given that we are the kingmakers now, we're able to make things happen, and say to the DA, listen, you take Johannesburg, we'll take Tshwane. So that our cardinal pillars, all the cardinal pillars, where we have control as the EFF, we can showcase, right, how when we are in government we can make this thing happen. Why didn't you choose that option out of all the 298 municipalities where that was possible?
JJ, will the DA vote with us to expropriate the land? And the answer is no. And when you fail to expropriate the land, then the people say, but this is the first thing you promised us.
And you are failing.
But that's why I'm saying now that next year we're prepared to take government. Why?
National government.
National government, provinces, even municipalities. Why? Because we're expropriating the land. It is doable. It will happen. We've got many political parties in parliament supporting it. So all of those things that constitute what is the EFF will happen.
Are now possible.
They are now possible. So the ideological differences made it impossible for the EFF to govern any municipality, because you need the backing of your partners, because you don't have a decisive majority.
But the reality, and good you raised the issue of decisive majority, the reality is throughout the country you have not managed to have one municipality backing you. Peter Bruce, and I want you to deal with this, what he was saying. You know, you saw his article today. He's saying, I don't understand why Ramaphosa is panicking about this thing, because the EFF won't manage past 10% at the polls. Are you confident that with what you have achieved over the next 5 years, you are ready to govern next year? Number one. Number two, that your assessment of your impact on the ground will actually put you past the 50% mark.
I don't read Peter Bruce's articles, by the way, and I don't take him serious, because he doesn't have experience of our people. So even if he says they can't pass 10%, he talks from a comfort zone, from a coffee shop in town, because those people that he spends time with were not looking for their votes. So he's right when he says we can't get 10% of his people, because we don't look
his people. I think he was talking about general.
He's talking about his people. He can't talk about general. How does he know about the straighter? He can't talk about general. He can't talk about things he doesn't know. He knows nothing. I mean, Buiseni had him in one interview where he said, sometimes we just talk. So he's just talking. He said that himself, that he's just talking. So it doesn't matter whether we pass 10% or not. We will become Ramaphosa's problem, even if he wins. We became Zuma's problem at 6%. We are ANC's problem at 6%. So if he thinks problems is percentage, then he has to think again.
Right.
He's proving once more that he's an empty tin which just makes a lot of noise, because 6% has proven to be giving policy direction in this country.
After the break, I want to talk about the ANC, your relationship with the ANC. A lot of people are wondering, can it happen? Can the day rise where Julius says, let's march back to Congolese? After the break, we talk possibility at the back of some people's minds about the relationship between the ANC and EFF. Can you say categorically it will never happen that, one, you coalesce with the ANC to govern next year, maybe on a national basis? Secondly, that any of you personally or otherwise would ever go back to the ANC?
Well, there's a possibility of us going to a coalition with the ANC. In the same way, there's a possibility to go into a coalition with the DA. We're not going to give anybody's vote now. Every vote of the EFF will go with the EFF. So we are going into government next year. And we're going into government even in the municipalities which are governed by a coalition now, next year. So
but let that have to wait for local government elections.
No, now. Remember, they will still be under coalition even in 2019.
So you can vote differently now.
So we are going to say to the partners in the local government municipality, either we take Tshwane or you take Joburg, or you take Joburg, we take Tshwane. Next year we're
ready now to do
because the constitution has made it very clear to amend the land. So there's no one who will say to us, but we can't do this.
But the NC hasn't changed its tune about corruption. How can even be
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. No, there is a possibility. The possibility emanates from, will you meet the conditions that the EFF is going to put forward? So we're going to talk to the ANC. We're going to say to the ANC, we will work with you on condition. Characters like Batabile Dlamini, Nomvula Mukonyane, and them are not part of our government. Otherwise, we're not getting involved. We'll work with you on condition. You speed up the cases on this, on that, and that. We'll put those conditions, which demonstrates seriousness, not only through talking, through action, to deal decisively with corruption. The same thing will apply to the DA. We will put conditions, and the conditions with the DA, at the center of that is to deal with whiteness. Because DA has got institutionalized whiteness. They are there to serve and protect the privilege of white people. In the absence of a clear action against whiteness, then they must kiss goodbye what we've
Has there been conversation?
And the second one is that the possibility of me going back to the ANC is not there.
It's not there
I will not go back to the ANC. Why? Because you can't go to a house which has been demolished. I've left home. I'm not a returned soldier. I'm gone. I've built my own house. I've got my own children. My grandmother always says, I saw you there at Winnie's funeral. You were smiling with those ANC people. What are you going to do with these children who are following you, all of them? You want to disappoint them, and you dare do that. You must know that you will be on your own. So it's no longer about me. It's about all these people who have taken risk decisions of following the EFF. And if I go back to the ANC, I will destroy all these people.
Okay, that's clear enough. But have there been conversations? There was some indication that particularly Didi Mabuza is on this comeback home sort of streak, and
imagine being recruited by Didi. I mean, you don't take yourself serious, man. I must be recruited by Didi to join that gangsterism arrangement of Mpumalanga.
But did he try though?
No, Didi, we talk, but he never brought this thing. I mean, perhaps when he speaks in a joking manner. There is no serious engagement around that. None of the people, and they will never do that. None of the people who say Julius must come back to the ANC or the EFF must come back to the ANC, none of them has ever asked for a serious engagement
and approach you with formally.
No one has ever done that.
Okay, tell me now about the party funding. You guys threw your weight behind the new legislation that says everybody must be transparent.
Yes.
And in conversation with my colleague Nzinga Kunta about 2 or 3 weeks ago, you clarified this thing of Mazoti and so on, and the fact that at the time that he was backing you with funding, nobody would touch you because people were afraid and so on. Can you clarify for me how you're going to link EFF's principles, right, and your campaigns and your firm stance on many things, and where you get your funding. And I ask this in the context of what we have seen, for example, the illicit trade of cigarettes doing to the economy. Some 5 billion rand missing in the fiscus, SARS failing to collect from some of these guys, etc.
Well, we disclosed Mazoti before even legislation. I can tell you about a lot of blood money that funds a lot of political parties. Actually, during the dark days of apartheid, there is a political party which had a unit, which was its task was to engage in cash in transit haste and take money into exile to support the soldiers in exile. And some of those people are in high positions today. Some of them are even in the arms deal, who were members of the unit which was engaged in cash in transit haste. Why? No one will dare support them because apartheid will crush those people. The same thing happened to us. No one will give us money. We made a public announcement that these people want us to pay money. Remember, we took them to court and said no one must pay money to exercise a democratic right. We lost that court bid. These Mbuyiseni doctors and them, they were sleeping there on the couches. The last day of registration, they had all given up that it's not going to happen. And we had to bring everything together and said, okay, maybe let's register with these few cents we've collected, or register only in this province or that province, until people like Mazoti came and said, this is my contribution. And when they did so, we announced it. We own Mazoti's money. We received Mazoti's money. We speak about it publicly.
Influence your policies.
We speak about it publicly. And if people don't want to vote for us because we received Mazoti's money, please don't vote for us.
At least they know that.
But they know. So we are not deceiving you.
You have strong views, though, on what is important to him.
And Andile Mqetama says that he didn't know Mazoti was involved. This clown doesn't take himself serious. He knew that. Because we were there, all of us. Mqetama went to parliament with Mazoti's money. If he's so moralist now, let him return that money he got from parliament. Because he got it because of Mazoti's money. Let him return that money. And he must stop saying the EFF is owing him, because he owes us a lot of money.
All right,
himself. We'll sequestrate him.
We'll come to that. But do you have strong views, though, on what is important to Mazoti in the cigarette trade? For example, the illicit, I'm sure you've seen the campaign about billions being lost to SARS.
Anyone who engages in illicit financial flows, remember, we are the ones who introduced the subject in parliament. It's not only in cigarette, it is in mining. BAT is involved in illicit financial flows. Trevor Manuel has got relationship with the owners of the BAT. Pravin has got relationship. Actually, he's got shares, if I'm not wrong, in BAT. But he remains the hero of the people who hate the EFF for receiving the money from Mazoti, when the BAT itself is involved, and it has admitted that it's involved in illicit cigarette smuggling in South Africa.
Pause on those files.
Mazoti, case has been opened against him. If he has done anything wrong, let them go after him. We are not owning him. We don't know Mazoti's business. We're not involved with Mazoti's business. The man does his own thing. We're doing our own thing.